Welcome to Timber Ridge, a small town nestled between mountains, shrouded in mist. An old town with deep roots and even darker secrets. At the heart of Timber Ridge lies a quaint square, featuring a general store, post office, and a church with a tall steeple. But the soul of Timber Ridge? The Whispering Woods. They surround the town, a wall of ancient and watchful trees. The townsfolk they knew, the woods were alive. They whispered secrets, old stories, forgotten tragedies, lost souls. And the wind? It carried these whispers through the trees, down empty streets, into your dreams. The trees in the Whispering Woods stand tall, centuries old, their branches like gnarled fingers reaching towards the sky, or maybe reaching for you. The townsfolk rarely spoke of it, the woods, the whispers. They knew better than to tempt fate. But every town has its stories. Legends passed down and whispered in the dark. Stories of the woods and the things that lived within. Things that weren't meant to be seen. Things that made you turn your head and listen. The most feared legend? The Skinwalker, a shapeshifter, an ancient evil that could take any form, lure you deeper into the woods where it could steal your skin, wear it like a coat, become you. Some dismissed it as just a story to scare children, to keep them out of the woods. But others? They knew better. They'd seen things, heard things, felt the presence of something watching from the shadows. Sarah Thompson, a newcomer to Timber Ridge, drawn by the quiet, the fresh air, the escape from city life. She bought an old Victorian house on the edge of town where the woods began. The locals welcomed her with warm smiles, but behind their eyes, a flicker of something else. Warning, pity, fear. She brushed it off as small town life. They'd warm up to her, she hoped. One night, the moon hung low, a blood-red orb, casting an eerie glow over Timber Ridge. The wind howled through the trees, whispering secrets. Sarah sat by her window, watching the shadows dance. A chill ran down her spine. She felt it then. A presence, outside, watching her. She told herself it was just the wind, the shadows, her imagination. But deep down, a primal fear stirred, the kind that whispers, something is wrong. Despite the warnings whispered through generations, Sarah found herself drawn to the woods. Their haunting beauty called to her. One afternoon, she ventured in. Sunlight dappled through the leaves. The air was heavy with the scent of pine and damp earth. She walked deeper. The trees grew closer. The sunlight faded. The air grew still. Silence descended, broken only by the sound of her own breath and a faint rustling behind her. She stopped, listened. The rustling stopped too. She turned slowly. Her heart pounded. There in the shadows, 2 points of light, eyes watching her. She couldn't make out the creature, but the eyes. They burned with an unnatural intensity, like hot coals. Fear coiled in her stomach. She knew she wasn't alone. Then, as quickly as it appeared, the creature was gone. The eyes vanished. The rustling ceased. Only the silence remained. And a faint, haunting melody carried on the wind. It seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere. It sent shivers down her spine. A cold dread settled over her. She needed to leave, now. She turned and ran. Branches whipped at her face. Thorns tore at her clothes, but she didn't stop. She burst out of the woods into the fading light. Safe, or so she thought. As she caught her breath, she noticed something. On her arm, a scratch. 3 thin lines, like claw marks. Burning hot. The Skinwalker's mark, they called it. A warning, or a promise. Panic surged through her. She raced back to town, to the safety of her home. She locked the doors, drew the curtains tight. But the fear remained, whispering in the shadows. She told no one about the eyes, the melody, the mark. Who would believe her? They'd think she was crazy. Just another outsider, driven mad by the woods, but she knew the truth. The legends were real, and the Skinwalker was watching. Sleep offered no escape. Nightmares plagued her, eyes watching, whispers following, the melody echoing in her dreams. The weight of Timber Ridge's secrets pressed down on her. She was trapped in a town full of whispers and a forest full of shadows. She knew then. She could never truly escape the woods. They were a part of her now, just as she was a part of them. The next morning, the sun rose over Timber Ridge, casting long shadows from the trees, but the warmth felt hollow, a thin veil over the darkness that lingered. Sarah stood at her window, staring into the woods. She saw her reflection, haunted eyes, a forced smile. The woods whispered back. A promise, a threat. We remember, and in that moment Sarah knew. She wasn't just living in Timber Ridge, she was surviving it.